Hey friend, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com. Today I want to show you how to use compression on vocals if you are a beginner. If you've never really dived deep into mixing and you haven't really messed with compression much, or you have and you feel confused, this is going to be a good video for you. We're going to look at how you can use a compressor on a lead vocal to give it punch, to make it sound up front, to contain the level a little bit, and give you a little bit of the reason why you use a compressor, and then show you some simple steps to use it. Compression is one of those techniques and one of those effects that is used all the time. And when you're newer to mixing, you're kind of confused as to why and what is it supposed to be doing. And it's very easy to screw up your tracks with compression when you don't know what you're doing. I've been there, so I know what it feels like. So today I'm going to show you an easier way to approach compression on vocals so you won't be frustrated or overwhelmed. So here I have a track, and it's kind of the mix is falling into place. Lead vocal has some EQ on it, and that's about it. And I want you to take a listen to the vocal, how it's kind of getting lost in the mix a little bit.
Summertime fine, but you've been acting cold in the wintertime. Two things that I can't quite align, but you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine. You have taken my mind, everything I own, I'll leave it behind. Leave it all behind. Would you lead me on if you had it your way?
All right, so some words on the vocal I can hear fine. Most of them I can't. And when you're mixing, you don't want to overthink things. If you can't hear enough of the vocal, just turn it up. Grab the fader. You know, if this is the lead vocal here, grab the fader, turn it up. Now, we could do that, and that might solve some of the problems, but I've already done this in the mix, and what I know is that it'll make the quieter parts nice and louder again so I can hear some of those words better. But then it makes the louder parts a little too loud. He jumps out. And you can see that if you just look at his vocal track. This is the waveform, the representation of his vocal performance. You can see you've got really quiet parts here. You have louder parts here. Even this one phrase here, you've got a wide variety of range. You've got a little bit of vocal here, and then he explodes up here.
You've been acting cold, you've been acting cold.
You've been acting cold. Cold is an open vowel. And when you open your mouth and you sing vowels, A's, I's, O's, it's just louder, even if you're not singing louder. So that's louder. This is too quiet. Same thing down here. You got these little guys here. But you
playing with my heart like
my heart is louder. This is why vocals need compression. They're all over the place. It's the human voice is very dynamic, meaning it can be quiet for 1 second, loud for another second. So that's why compressors are so often used on vocals, because they can contain that volume and give you more even performance. What if you had a way that you could automate magically the quiet parts of the vocal to come up in volume and the louder parts of the vocal to come down in volume, so they were a little better matched and they were all about the same volume so that the listener could hear every word and syllable the same? Wouldn't that be nice? Well, that's what a compressor does. So that's how I view compression. It's like an automatic volume fader. So I'll grab a compressor here. Let's grab the stock Avid compressor. It comes with Pro Tools. And, you know, you might see compressors, they all look very different, and some have very few knobs. I'm not going to go into like the 1176 or the LA2A or any of those type compressors today. I want to look at a standard DAW compressor where you have more of the knobs, so you can feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable here, you'll feel comfortable almost anywhere. And the knobs you really need to pay attention to are threshold, attack and release, ratio, and gain, or otherwise known as makeup gain or makeup. The most important one is threshold. If this threshold is all the way up at 0, even though you have a compressor on your vocal, it's not going to do any compression.
summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime.
This threshold is saying until the volume of the music, or in this case, the vocal, crosses above that threshold, don't compress. And as we can see, if the threshold is at the very top, this vocal is never going to get there.
Summertime fine.
So you can play with these knobs all you want. You can add presets all you want, but if your threshold is too high, it's not doing any compression. So what you need to do is set the threshold, to a point where it's just below where it's cresting. So I'm going to say where it was by default. It'll be just a way to gauge if it's a good starting point. And what we're really looking for, though, is the gain reduction meter. I don't really care where the threshold is. The numbers don't matter. What matters are how much gain reduction we're doing. That's the most important thing. How much are we turning down the vocal? So let's look at that. By default, I'll leave the settings as they are for now.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime. Two things that I can't quite align, but you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine.
So with this setting, we can see that a lot of times it's doing -3 dB of gain reduction to sometimes like -4, -5 to sometimes not much.
You are summertime fine.
Like fine, it didn't really do much, but it did some compression on the other places. Now, when it comes to ratio on vocals, a good rule of thumb is 2:1 to 4:1 are good ratios. I'm not going to go into depth on what a ratio is here. I've got something for you that will help you with that in a minute. But in general, 2:1, 4:1 ratio is going to be a natural, not too aggressive ratio of how much it's turning down when the audio crosses the threshold. So this default setting here on my compressor is 3:1. I think that's great. Your attack and your release are really going to affect the sound of the compressor. Attack is telling the compressor how quickly to jump on or attack the audio the moment it crosses the threshold. So it's not going to do anything until it crosses that threshold. So only the loud parts are going to be turned down. But when they are turned down, how quickly does the compressor kick in? So obviously a faster attack, you're going to have a more aggressive compression. And you're going to kill some of the transients, the ups and the downs. And slower attacks going to be a little more natural, a little more loose. Release is the opposite. How quickly does it release or let go of the vocal and let it reset back to its normal volume? It looks like in this default setting on this compressor, you've pretty much got a somewhat slow attack, but it's kind of a medium attack, medium release. On a vocal, I might go a little bit faster of an attack. Let's see what that does.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime. Two things that I can't quite align, but you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine.
So it's a little bit more, it's clamping down on his vocal just a little bit more. But the most compression it's doing is -6 dB, which is nice and healthy, nothing aggressive. But if you've noticed, all we've done now is turned down the loud parts of the vocal. And that's what I want you to notice. Remember how I showed you there's these ups and these downs. There's a wide dynamic on the vocal. Look at this section, for example.
You've been acting cold, you've been acting cold, you've been acting cold.
The first part of the line, these quieter parts that you've been acting, it's doing maybe -1, maybe -2 dB of gain reduction. But when it gets to cold, it turns it down -6.
You've been acting cold, you've been acting cold, you've been acting cold.
So it's turning this line down more than it's turning these lines. And that's what we want to do. We want to turn the loud parts down to better match the quieter parts. So now we have a more even performance. But if you're smart, you've noticed all we've done is make a more even but more quiet performance. And that's not what we want. We wanted to hear things better. So now the final step of the puzzle is the gain or the makeup gain knob. Now, since we've done nothing but turn down the volume of the track, we need to make that gain back up and turn the whole thing back up. Now that we've evened out and smoothed out these peaks so they're a lot more consistent, let's bring the level of everything back up. So if I'm taking the loud parts down by -6, quiet parts down by -2, -3, I might try to pull this gain up somewhere in between and see if we can make the overall output match the input peak, so that I'm not making this track louder peak volume wise, but overall more of the phrases will be louder than they were because I'm bringing back up with it all the quiet parts. Let's take a look.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime. Two things that I can't quite align, but you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine. You have taken my mind, everything I own, I'll leave it behind. Leave it all behind.
All right, so what we've done is, for the most part, we brought up the whole track by 4.5 dB, which is a big chunk. But again, we're not just turning up the volume of the track. We're compressing it, evening it out, and now bringing up the output volume of the whole thing. And now you have a more consistent performance. We'll listen to it on and off with the compressor in solo, And you'll hear the difference. You're going to hear the quiet phrases disappear when we take off the compressor. But then we'll play it in context with the mix, which is really what matters most.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime.
No compression.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime.
With compression.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime. Two things that I can't quite align, but you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine.
Without compression.
But you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine. But you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine.
Compressed.
But you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine.
My heart sounds about the same volume, but this opening phrase here, but you're playing with my, that's what was getting lost. That's coming back up to match the level and intensity of these louder parts. Do you see what we're doing here? We're using a compressor to bring up the lyrics, the phrases, the syllables that are getting lost and swallowed, so they are just as loud, just as in your face, and just as aggressive as the loud parts of the vocal. And so in context with a mix, with a compressor, it's much better. When I take the compressor off, you'll notice the life go out of the vocal.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime. Two things that I can't quite align, but you're playing with my heart like it ain't mine. You have taken my mind, everything I own, I'll leave it behind.
Right? With compression.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime.
No compression.
You are summertime fine, but you've been acting cold like the wintertime.
This is a good example here. You've been acting cold like the wintertime. You only catch parts of those phrases.
You've been acting cold like the wintertime.
With compression.
You've been acting cold like the wintertime. You've been acting cold like the wintertime.
I want you to pay attention to like the winter. The word time is fine, but like the winter, that's the phrase that's getting lost without compression. So I'm gonna take the compressor off. You've been acting cold like the winter. Listen to that.
You've been acting cold like the wintertime.
Gets lost.
You've been acting cold like the wintertime.
With compression.
You've been acting cold like the wintertime.
Now you hear it. This is what a compressor is doing. So if you're brand new or you're starting to mess with compression, this is what I want you to think about with a compressor is an automatic volume knob. It's going to turn down the loud parts, turn up the quiet parts, give you a more even upfront performance, and you get all this kind of control in between. I want you to think about the threshold. Set that to you're seeing minus 6 dB of gain reduction on the loudest parts. Use a 2:1 to 4:1 ratio. And sort of an in-between medium attack, medium release is a good starting point. Now, I want to give you something else that will help you go more in depth with compression and simplify it even more for you. I've got a cheat sheet or a checklist for compression. There's 7 tips to using compression and 7 ways I think about it. And so what I've done is put all 7 of these together in a simple guide for you called my 7 Steps to Compression Checklist. And what it'll do is explain a lot of what I've talked about today. It'll give you some tips and tricks and mistakes to avoid with compression as well. And it's a simple guide, a PDF that you can print up, keep it on your desk. If you're old school like me, you can keep it on your phone, on your tablet. It's like I said, it's a checklist to reference. It's a cheat sheet to reference anytime you're mixing with compression. This will really help you, especially if you're brand new. And it's good for you if you're a wily vet as well to be reminded of how to think about a compressor, how to use a compressor, and quickly get that vocal sound or that kick drum sound or that bass guitar sound or whatever you're trying to use compression for as fast as possible. So download it. It's absolutely free. Just go to compression7.com. I'll put the link here in the video and in the description box. That's compression with the number 7, compression7.com. Get your free 7-step compression checklist download. I think it's going to help you on your next mix. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to these videos. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on another video real soon.